All right, so let's dive into some serious Halloween vibes today.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be cracking open Halloween, Devil's Advocates
Okay.
by Murray Leeder.
Cool.
Now, he's a film scholar who really knows his horror.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about John Carpenter's 1978 classic Halloween.
Right.
You probably think you know this film,
Yeah.
the ultimate slasher flick, right?
Sure.
But Leeder argues it's so much more than that.
Yeah, no, he sees it as a film, like, deeply rooted in ghost stories, cultural anxieties,
Okay.
and even the changing landscape of the 1970s.
Interesting.
What's fascinating here is that the slasher label wasn't even around when Halloween first came out.
Real.
It was only after the wave of imitators it inspired that we started viewing it through that lens.
So are we saying that Halloween isn't a slasher at all?
Well, not necessarily,
Right.
but Leeder's point is that the film is far more nuanced and restrained than what we typically associate with slashers.
Okay.
Think about it. The body count is surprisingly low. Mm-hmm.
The gore is minimal,
Yeah,
and the focus is more on atmosphere and building suspense.
that's true. It's more about the dread of what might happen.
Yeah.
That constant feeling of being watched.
Exactly. Carpenter uses techniques like long takes, unsettling sound design,
Right.
and Michael Myers' slow, deliberate movements
Yeah.
to create this chilling sense of inevitability.
He's not just slashing his way through victims. He's
Yeah.
like a force of nature,
Yeah,
moving with an almost supernatural purpose.
exactly.
Which brings us to the big question.
Oh, yeah.
Who is Michael Myers?
Right.
And what does he want?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy wears a white mask and barely makes a sound. How do you even begin to analyze that?
It's the question that has haunted audiences for decades.
Mhm.
And you know what?
What?
Even John Carpenter,
Yeah.
the director himself,
Right.
has playfully admitted, like, he doesn't have a concrete answer.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
He just threw this terrifying figure into the world without a fully formed backstory. Well, he's
Okay.
offered glimpses and hints over the years. In one interview, he even joked around with rapper R.A. the Rugged Man,
Okay.
tossing out possibilities ranging from
Right.
childhood trauma to, believe it or not, repressed homosexuality.
Okay. That's unexpected, to say the least.
Yeah.
But does Leeder offer any insights into this mystery?
He does.
Okay.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
Right.
Leeder argues that the ambiguity surrounding Michael's motivations is actually one of his greatest strengths.
So it's not about why he does what he does,
Right.
but the fact that we can never truly understand it.
Precisely. It taps into a primal fear of the unknown.
Okay.
The idea that evil can erupt anywhere, at any time,
Yeah.
without reason or warning.
That's chilling. And Leeder also digs into the idea of Michael as a supernatural figure, almost like a ghost from a classic horror story.
Yes. And while the film never explicitly confirms his supernatural nature, it constantly hints at it through visual cues and stylistic choices.
I see.
Take the scene where Michael disappears after being shot multiple times by Dr. Loomis.
Oh, yeah.
He simply vanishes,
Right.
leaving his fate ambiguous and adding to the sense that he's something more than human.
It's almost like Carpenter's playing with our expectations. Yeah.
Exactly.
Blurring the lines between the real and the supernatural.
Exactly. And this ambiguity is crucial.
Okay.
It forces us to confront the possibility that maybe, just maybe,
Yeah.
there are things in this world that defy rational explanation.
But it's not just Michael himself who creates this unsettling atmosphere. It's the entire town of Haddonfield, especially on Halloween night.
Yeah.
Leeder calls it a haunted environment.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think he means by that?
It's not just about jump scares or creepy decorations.
Okay.
Haddonfield feels weighed down by a dark history,
Yeah.
a past that refuses to stay buried.
Interesting.
And this connects directly to the anxiety surrounding Halloween itself, especially in the 1970s.
Okay, so we're talking about more than just kids and costumes and candy.
Much more.
All right.
Leeder points out that this was a time when trick-or-treating,
Yeah.
while seemingly innocent,
Right.
was viewed by some as a way to control and regulate
Okay.
the more chaotic, even destructive
Oh.
Halloween traditions of the past.
So instead of kids causing mayhem in the streets,
Right.
we have this sanitized,
Yeah.
organized version of Halloween where everyone stays in line.
It's a way of containing those primal fears,
Okay.
of imposing order on a night that traditionally embraced chaos.
And of course, there were the real world fears that were creeping into the holiday at the time. Poison candy, razor blades and apples.
Those fears were very real, fueled by news reports and urban legends.
Right.
And Halloween reflects those anxieties, showing us a seemingly safe suburban world where danger lurks beneath the surface.
It's like the film is saying that even in the most ordinary places, evil can find a way to take root.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so effective. It taps into those universal fears that we all share, regardless of whether we believe in ghosts or monsters.
Interesting. We were just talking about how Halloween taps into those real-world anxieties of the 1970s.
Right.
But the film also dives into the uncertainties of adolescence. Leeder points out that Laurie Strode and her friends represent this lost generation. Caught between the old ways and a world that's rapidly changing.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's fascinating how Carpenter uses the babysitter trope.
So you're saying it's more than just a cliche?
Exactly. These girls are on the cusp of adulthood, navigating newfound freedoms and responsibilities. They're expected to be caretakers, yet they're also facing dangers that previous generations might not have even imagined.
And we see how Laurie's friends, Annie and Linda, they're much more carefree. More interested in boys and parties than in being responsible babysitters.
Which ultimately leads to their downfall.
But Laurie, despite her anxieties, she embodies a different kind of strength. She's cautious, observant, and ultimately willing to fight back.
Exactly.
You know, that's a great point.
Oh, thanks.
I never thought about it that way. But Laurie's survival is directly tied to her ability to balance those traditional expectations with this emerging sense of self-reliance. She's not a damsel in distress. She's a young woman figuring out how to navigate a world that's suddenly become very dangerous.
And this brings us to another character who's grappling with these changing times. Dr. Loomis.
Absolutely.
He's almost like a bridge between Laurie's world and Michael Myers' world.
Oh, absolutely. Donald Pleasance's performance as Loomis is unforgettable. He's this jaded, chain-smoking psychiatrist who seems to understand the depths of Michael's evil better than anyone.
Leeder argues that Loomis is more than just a doctor. He's a symbol of an older generation struggling to comprehend the darkness that has emerged.
That's a really interesting take. It's like Loomis represents the failure of traditional systems to deal with this new kind of evil, psychiatry, reason, logic. None of it seems to work on Michael Myers.
And this raises some profound questions about the nature of evil itself. Can we truly understand it through rational means? Or is it something that defies explanation? Loomis's inability to truly grasp or contain Michael suggests that evil might operate on a level beyond our comprehension.
Which is a terrifying thought.
It is.
It means that even our best efforts to understand and control evil might be futile.
And that ties into Leeder's analysis of Halloween as a film deeply rooted in cosmic horror.
Wow, cosmic horror. I never thought about Halloween in that context before. But it makes sense when you consider the way Carpenter presents Michael. He's often referred to as the shape, this blank, emotionless force of nature. It's like he embodies the very concept of the unnameable. The things that we can't even begin to understand.
Precisely.
Wow.
And this idea of the unnameable goes back to Lovecraft's work. The notion that there are forces in the universe so vast and terrifying that they defy human language and comprehension.
So are we saying that Michael Myers is basically a Lovecraftian monster wearing a William Shatner mask?
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. But the parallels are definitely there. Both Michael and Lovecraft's creations operate outside the bounds of human logic. They represent chaos and destruction in their purest forms.
Wow.
And their very existence challenges our sense of order and security in the world.
That's mind-blowing. And it makes the film's ending even more unsettling. I mean, Loomis shoots Michael multiple times. But he still disappears. Is he dead? Will he return? Carpenter leaves us with this lingering sense of unease. That feeling that evil can never truly be vanquished.
That ambiguity is one of the film's most brilliant aspects. It mirrors the ambiguity surrounding Michael's motivations throughout the film. We don't get a neat resolution. no clear-cut victory over evil.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so effective. It stays with us long after the credits roll.
It's like a nightmare you can't quite shake off.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about how Halloween reflects the anxieties surrounding the holiday itself, but can we dig a little deeper into that?
Sure.
What specifically is Carpenter saying about Halloween and its evolution? So we've been talking about how Halloween reflects these anxieties surrounding Halloween itself.
Right.
But can we dig a little deeper into that? Like, what specifically is Carpenter saying about Halloween and its evolution?
Well, Leeder argues that Halloween is more than just a backdrop for the film. It's a symbolic landscape where these anxieties play out.
I see.
He points out that in the 1970s, trick-or-treating became a way to sort of control and regulate the holiday.
Okay.
You know, taming its wilder, more chaotic aspects.
So instead of roaming bands of mischief makers,
right,
we have kids in cute costumes politely asking for candy.
Exactly.
Right.
It's a way of containing those primal fears.
Yeah.
Imposing order on a night that's traditionally associated with disorder and the unknown.
But even with all that order and control, Halloween shows us that darkness can still erupt in the most unexpected places.
Right.
Like those fears of poisoned candy.
Yeah.
And razor blades and apples. They weren't just stories.
No.
They reflected a real unease about the world.
Exactly. Halloween taps into those fears, showing us a seemingly safe suburban world where danger lurks beneath the surface.
Right.
It's like the film is saying that evil can find a way to take root anywhere,
Right.
even in the heart of American suburbia.
And speaking of suburbia,
Okay.
it's interesting how the film focuses on these teenage babysitters,
Right.
essentially left alone to deal with Michael Myers.
That's a great observation.
Thanks.
Leeder points out that the absence of parents in Halloween is deliberate.
Okay.
It creates this sense of vulnerability and isolation.
Yeah.
Especially for Laurie and her friends.
Right.
They're not just babysitters.
Well.
They're surrogate parents, thrust into roles they're not fully prepared for.
Could you say that this absence of parental figures also plays into that theme of the lost generation we discussed earlier?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like, these kids are left to navigate a world that's increasingly complex and dangerous without the guidance of the older generation.
Right.
Absolutely. It highlights the anxieties of that era, the breakdown of traditional family structures, the uncertainty of the future.
Right.
Laurie, Annie, and Linda are left to figure things out on their own.
Yeah.
And the consequences are pretty stark.
And you know what else is interesting?
What's that?
It's almost like the film is commenting on the very nature of horror itself.
Yeah.
We have Michael Myers,
Right.
this embodiment of pure evil, lurking in the shadows.
Yeah.
But the true horror
Yeah.
lies in the fact that we can't fully understand him.
Right.
We can't rationalize his actions. He's a force of chaos that defies explanation.
I think that's a brilliant insight.
Oh, thanks.
It goes back to the idea of the unnameable that we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
Halloween isn't just about jump scares and gore.
Okay.
It's about confronting the unknown.
Right.
The things that exist just beyond the reach of our understanding.
Yeah.
That's what makes it truly terrifying.
And that terror lingers even after the film ends.
Yeah.
We see Laurie Strode physically safe,
Right.
but clearly traumatized
Yes.
by her encounter with Michael Myers. The film doesn't offer us a neat, happy ending.
Right.
It leaves us with these lingering questions about the nature of evil and the lasting effects of trauma.
It's a reminder that sometimes,
Yeah.
even when we survive a horrific experience, the scars remain.
Yeah.
And that's something that resonates with audiences on a very deep level.
Right.
It forces us to confront the possibility that evil can touch our lives in ways we never anticipated. And the consequences can be profound.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive.
Oh, well, thank you.
I feel like I'm seeing Halloween in a whole new light.
Good.
It's not just a slasher film.
Right.
It's a complex exploration of fear, anxiety, and the dark undercurrents of American society.
And it's a testament to John Carpenter's brilliance as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
He understands that true horror isn't about cheap thrills.
Right.
It's about tapping into those universal fears that haunt us all.
So the next time you watch Halloween, remember it's not just about a guy in a mask chasing teenagers.
Right.
It's about confronting the darkness that exists both in the world around us and within ourselves.
And maybe, just maybe, it's also about finding the courage to face those fears, just like Laurie Strode did.
Well said. Until next time,
All right.
keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.